If you're tired of not making progress and you're ready to be the artist you know you're meant to be, you're in the right place. You're listening to the Singer's Path podcast. The Path, or Performing Artists Training Hub, will cover everything, including singing tips that actually work, advice from top industry professionals, and life-changing mindset shifts. Out with the starving artist and in with the thriving artist. I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, professional singer, actor, educator, and entrepreneur. I'm not afraid to speak the truth and stop the gatekeeping of quality information so you can actually become the artist you dream of being. So let's get on the path, shall we? Even though we're all on our own journeys, it always helps to have a guide.
Hello. Welcome back to the Singer's Path podcast. It's me, your host. Who else would it be? It's Sarah. Hi. Today is a very special day because I'm announcing something very special that you will hear about for literally the next few weeks. So buckle the frick up. But today's also a special episode because I'm going to be a little bit more transparent about the behind the scenes work of my wild mind. A big part of what it takes to become a professional artist or professional anything, have success in any capacity. And what we're going to discuss here is how doing the inner work and what looking under the hood is like in your own mind, in your own psyche, and in your own subconscious. And what doing that work, how that actually affects you getting the things that you want and manifesting them in a way. So this is a more unusual episode up till this point. However, if you know me, I'm all about this and have been about this for the last, maybe 6 years. I've lived my life through this. And I'm eager to share with you what that looks like and kind of lead into this big special announcement. So let's start at the very beginning. Okay, that's annoying. Don't do that. Okay, yeah. So we're going to start at the very beginning as to why I actually started to get into doing the inner work, what the fuck that means, and where it led me, and how it has to do with manifestation, and why actually it's an integral part of manifestation. So first off, we're going to paint a picture for you. I've talked about this. I've talked about my life a lot in my 20s. And leading up to that, it's been interesting because I actually, if we're gonna look at this through a manifestation lens, because that's ultimately what we want, right? Manifestation, if you've never heard of it, I find that hard to believe, but it's the idea that you can really create your own reality, and whatever's going on in your head and whatever you desire, you can manifest into this life, right? And if I'm going to be so for real, like earlier in my life, before I knew what I was doing, I was really good at it. I was really, really, really good at it, in a really surrendered way. Like actually, the more surrendered, the more pure, and the more I was listening to my intuition and not acting out of fear, which we're going to get into here, the better it turned out. And the more things just kind of fell into my lap, and I got led to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. The biggest example of which happened when I was in high school. This is wild, but when I was a senior in high school, it was literally like the summer before my senior year, which is incredibly late to decide as a musical theater person that you want to audition. So I literally pulled the trigger. Like I kind of decided that I wanted to go into musical theater maybe May of, was it 2010? Oh my God, it was so long ago. But it was May before my senior year. And I remember there was this moment. This is probably one of the first times in my life that I felt this intuitive impulse and this gut impulse. And I listened to that internal feeling, and it led a huge step in my life. And it was this. I was sitting in chemistry, I think. No, it wasn't chemistry. It was physics. I was sitting in physics. I was looking around the classroom, and there was something, I don't know what fucking vibe or mood I was in. I don't know what happened to me, but I looked around the room. I was supposed to be like taking a test or doing something, and I wasn't. But I was looking around the room in physics, and I noticed everybody's heads were down, like down doing their work. Everyone was just working, heads down. Not obviously, they weren't taking in what was around them. It must not have been a test because I would have been focusing on the test. This was something else. That we were doing something else. But everyone was working to themselves. And for some reason, it struck me that it was like, are you going to live your life with your head down like this? Like, because up till this point, I had no intention on going into music at all. I was kind of like, I was going to be a school teacher. I was going to be, I don't know. I always thought about going into like biomed or something, which is ridiculous because I couldn't even get through anatomy and physiology with the dissection. So it wasn't going to happen. Okay. There was no world in which that was going to happen. And yet, there wasn't in my mind up until that point. I know I loved singing. I knew that. I knew I was good at it, but I didn't really see it as a valid career choice. But at that moment in physics, for some reason, when I was noticing everybody's heads down, I was like, okay, like there was this feeling that like struck me to my core that was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to present it to my parents. I know this is what I'm supposed to do. And it was late, and I came to my mom that night, and I was like, listen, like, this is what I want to do. I don't know how, but I just know that I'm supposed to do this and go for this. And honestly, because I was like in such conviction about it, and I was like, trust me, like my mom was like, okay. Like I don't even know why my parents, I mean, they were supportive, but you know, there was no arguing. And I think it was because I came from such a surrendered place of like trust that they were like, I mean, sure. Like, and then from there, like one thing led to the other. I met the two perfect mentors that I needed to get me where I needed to go. I started, coaching with someone that worked at Carnegie Mellon. I had a voice teacher in Pittsburgh that specialized in getting kids into school. And, I just got to work, and I just happened to go to a summer program very last minute. It wasn't like Impulse or like any of the big ones. It was like a small one at Baldwin Wallace, which is actually still a really good school that, my one friend had recommended to me. And I was like, okay. So I like just happened to kind of spiral into the situation. One thing led to another. I prepared just for a couple months to get ready to do these auditions. And then it came time there weren't actually pre-screens back then. So it was just, you sign up for the auditions. And I remember every single night, again, this is kind of private. I'm a little bit nervous to talk about this, but I think this is important. I was from such a surrendered, hopeful, excited place. Like I don't think I've shared this with anybody, but okay, we're going to go for it. Every night, for 6 months, I would see 11:11 on the clock every single night. And I took it as just a reminder. I don't know why I knew this. I just knew this. I took it as a reminder in my heart, my heart of hearts. I would be like, oh, it's 11:11. Okay. And I would say my wish. And because it was like, I don't really know if it was always like, if this is for me, if this is where my life is supposed to go, show me. And wow, wouldn't it just be so amazing? Wouldn't it just be, and then I would literally rehearse feeling, not feeling in my body. I would rehearse it. I would feel the joy and the gratitude as if it was going to happen. And I was like, wow, this would be fantastic. I couldn't even, because it was such a jump for me at that time to even dream into it. The possibility of even doing it was beyond my wildest imaginations. I had no attachment to what it was going to look like because I had no idea what it was going to look like. And I didn't care because all I cared about was getting out of the school I was in, and I was draining myself, and that scenario wasn't good for me. So all I cared about was leaving that situation of school, right? And actually doing something that I wanted to do. So just the idea of getting to do something that I love to do every single day was such a privilege in my brain. I would have been so grateful just to be in any show anywhere that I was like, oh my God, if I got to go to school for this, I would burst, And so I would practice that feeling literally every single day for 6 months. And I think I auditioned for 12 schools. I got into the first school on the spot. They offered me a position on the spot that day. And then I got into 10 out of 12 schools. And the other 2, I was on a wait list. So that's fucking crazy. If you have ever, if you know anyone that's auditioned for musical theater programs, they're like getting into Ivy League schools, harder than getting into Ivy League schools. They're so competitive and so saturated. Now, it was a long time ago, so things could be different now, right? But I was very marketable at the time of what, was going on in the industry, and the school saw me. And I think really because I was in such this surrender joy, I was freaking effervescent, y'all. Effervescent. I was magnetic. And when I talk about like turning on that star quality and that presence and all the things that make you a magnet for the things that you want, this is a big part of it, is this surrender, this embodiment, and this just like unbridled gratitude. This like, and I think a lot of artists try to force it. Well, sometimes. Okay, we're going to go through a whole fucking journey here. This is a 3-parter, I believe, to really show you this important piece that I have not yet talked about because it's remained private, but I think that's not really being of service to you. So anyway, I was magnetic. I got into 10 out of 12 schools. That's insane. I went to one of the top schools in the world for theater. And when I got there, I was still pretty good at it. I didn't really know exactly the rules, but I knew that if I stayed relatively positive about things and had, an outlook and listened to my gut on things, I still had like a pretty good sense of like understanding myself and what I wanted. And I think because I was still young, it was like, oh, anything's possible. Like I have so much time. I can't wait to see what happens. Like I was still in a pretty surrendered place. I graduated from my BFA with a very open heart. And I was still very magnetic. I was very confident in myself. I just spent the last 4 years working on all of my skills and, was pretty and in shape, and had just taken, 4 years of voice and acting and dance lessons. So I was like very much ready to go. I had a lot of momentum. So I showcased well. I signed with a really good agent at the time. And, they've been wonderful. And after that, I actually booked. Again, I was in a pretty surrendered place. Like, show me that this is possible for me. Like, let's see what happens. I then booked a dream job pretty much immediately out of school. It was like maybe one or two months after. I think I maybe solidified everything in like July of 2015. I had graduated in April. So it had been a few months. Wild to book a show. I booked the Cabaret National Tour. It was the roundabout version. And I toured with that for, I think, close to 2 years. I think it was closer to 18 months. On that tour was where I started to get fucked up. Okay. Because, and I've talked about this before, and this is why grief and like uncovering, this is where the inner work starts to be important. After a certain point, I started understanding that maybe things weren't all the way in alignment, and there was an invitation to kind of pivot. And I was being like shown ways that I needed to grow in order to actually live the life that I really wanted. But when I tell you, there was about, oh my God, a 5-year period of absolute trash, garbage. Like, this is awful, the worst time of my life ever. To basically like putting pressure to make a diamond in the rough. Like I needed character development. Okay. That happened so roughly and in an insane way from 2016 to 2020, really. So I guess it's like 4 years. But it felt, let me tell you, it felt like an eternity. Okay. I graduated. I left that show and was, first of all, the biggest problem was I started kind of fucking up what I was naturally very good at. And not in a bad way. I'm not trying to say this in a way that's like mean or like looking down on myself. But this is where I started to go wrong. And this is, again, another big reason why I've created this thing that I'm going to announce here very shortly. But when I I started becoming fearful because I realized that working in this way was not all the way aligned for me. I was being shown for the first time the realities of what it was like to work as a professional artist. And the news was, even though I had lived in my bubble and lived in a very positive way, and I actually continued to do that, I learned that people that you work with are not always kind people. I learned that the dressing room dynamic can make a big difference on how you enjoy your time on a show. I learned that the quality of my life wasn't really what I wanted it to be. I grew tired of touring and not having a home to land on. I grew very lonely because I isolated myself from dynamics because I had a not so good time with the cast there in the dressing room, especially. And I, and I've talked about this before, but I started placing demands on universe in a way. And guys, when I talk about universe, I'm going to start talking about that kind of stuff. If that doesn't feel good to you, just know it's not God. It's whatever you want it to be. I'm not, when I talk about this larger thing, it can be whatever feels good to you, whatever translation, if that's Jesus or God or Buddha or Mother Earth or the great unknown. I don't know, but it's just an acknowledgement that there's something bigger than us. And when I tell you, I call it universe, when I started placing demands because I went, okay, well, universe, I just spent all this time working towards this thing, and I'm discovering that it's not really all the way for me. So you know what? I'm discovering that really I need it this way. I need to. I guess I must have to be a lead on Broadway and be making a bunch of money, and I can't be seen for any of these other projects anymore because that's not really what I want, and that's not really what I've been working towards. And and when I already did that and that doesn't feel good to me anymore. And I started fucking myself pretty badly. Now, there's some truth to that. I had it about 40% right. There were very real things being uncovered, but I was too scared to fully listen to the intuition at that point. And that's why it took me 5 fucking years to be in so much discomfort and pain that it would finally move me to truly doing the inner work that I'm going to talk about here. Okay. I literally felt like I was so out of alignment and I was moving so much out of fear. And I put so much pressure on myself to be something. And then it was not, basically the internal dialogue became nothing I ever do is good enough. And so no matter what I tried to do, that was what mirrored outside of me. And I struggled a long time. And I mean, when I mean rock bottom in every area of my life. And I think what's interesting about doing the inner work and with manifestation in particular, or getting your dreams and desires, everything's on divine timing. You have no fucking control over when things are going to come in, what you're going to get tested on, what's coming through. And so when I tell you, I got tested in every way possible, I did. But the most obvious one at the time was actually relationship. And I, for the fucking life of me, beyond I could, again, I was able to look hot enough and work on my voice enough. And at that time, I really wasn't booking what I wanted to book, but I got pretty far. I didn't book those jobs because I wasn't embodied in the way that I needed to be for those companies to fucking hire me. And my mix was a little fucked up and I probably would have burned out anyway, right? And some things you don't manifest at that time. It's not on the timeline because that would not have been a good fit for me. Honestly, I look back and I'm like, wow, I would have been a mess. Of course I wasn't ready to do that at that time, but I needed it so badly to work out, right? But anyway, the most obvious and actually easiest thing for me at the time to heal first was relationship. And this is where I'm going to lean into the importance of the inner work and why you not doing any kind of inner work and reflection of learning to hold yourself through the scary things and learning to look inside, see what's subconsciously running, and take appropriate action to embody what you need to be to actually live the life you want to live. This was the first time that I had to consciously figure it out, and kind of figure it out the hard way, because I had fucked myself up so it's like it's fascinating because I was so good at it originally when I was from a place of surrender and peace. But when fear takes hold, it's kind of like a bunch of weeds like take over your garden. And you have a hard time, weeding things out. It takes root and it goes down. When doubt and fear implant, it's a lot harder to get them out. However, I needed that to happen in my journey so that I could figure this out and teach it to you guys and show you why it's so important and how I literally shifted my life. So here it is. This was the first way I did this. And like I said, it was so fucking obvious with the relationship. I, for the fucking life of me, could not find someone at that time that was a good fit for me, that was kind to me and treated me well. I kept attracting people who were narcissistic, who talked down to me, who treated me small, who I had to shrink to be with and be around. And at a certain point, enough was enough. I had been devastated by a breakup. I tried to, I had lived with this person and we broke up and then I moved out and I was at my low point. I was so depressed. I was so numb. I had a hard time feeling things. So I literally ran miles and miles and miles just to feel something. I was so disconnected from myself because the real reality that was settling in me, but I just could not confront, was the fact that my dream wasn't what I needed it to be or what I expected it to be. And that I thought I had met the love of my life, but they actually just left. And they all of a sudden one day just cut it off and then they left. And I was left with myself just like on the ground. I was on the floor. It was the biggest rock bottom. Well, it was the first biggest rock bottom. The second biggest rock bottom was COVID. But that rock bottom was a lot better, actually. So I'm on the floor. I try to pick myself up. I try to take myself on a retreat, okay, for myself. Not a retreat. I didn't have a lot of money. I was very poor, by the way. Didn't have any money. I was making less than, I think, $20K a year. A year? In New York. So when I do money mindset episodes and stuff for artists, like, this is my word. I was below the poverty line. Below the poverty line in New York City. Okay. So I've been having more success as my business has grown, but don't ever one of you motherfuckers come to me and say, I don't fucking get it. I do fucking get it. Okay. I lived that way for 5 years, making around $20,000 a year in New York. My rent was $12,000 a year. I don't even know how the fuck I did that. Okay. Anyway, it was more than that. It was more than $12,000 a year. It was probably like $15,000 a year. I don't know how I did it. I don't know. Anyway, I tried to take myself to Puerto Rico on a budget, which was a mistake, to kind of find myself. That was a mistake because I was living in such fear, and I was so afraid of men as well. There was an incident where I had kind of a dangerous situation, where someone may or may not have tried to grab me and throw me in a vehicle. I luckily was fine, obviously. But that scared the shit out of me and like kind of was a pretty traumatic experience. So I'm not going to spare. I was okay, but almost not okay, right? I was attracting really bad situations because I was kind of stuck in the slump of fear. Really what I needed to do was go the fuck home to Pennsylvania and live in my parents' house for a little bit and just fucking grieve. But I was, again, so out of desperation of fear that I was going to somehow miss out, or my agents were going to drop me, or if I didn't book work and I didn't audition and I didn't do blah, 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 that, I failed and I didn't make it. So I forced myself to be in New York City and grind. I was trying my best, but I was drowning. Like, I really was not my best self. I was still talented and like really good. And sometimes I look back on videos of myself and I feel sad for her because she was really good. And I am still very good, but it was like, I was in a pressure cooker to figure it out. And eventually I did, but it wasn't until COVID that I figured it out. But At that time, I did start to listen a little bit more to my intuition. I started to do things that were less out of fear and more out of like, I just have to fucking take care of myself because I literally just need to be able to function. And I started doing a work trade at a yoga studio. And there I manifested that was like the first time I started to meet some friends that were really good, really, really good people at this yoga trade. One of which was my friend Salwa. And Salwa was like, have you ever heard of this thing called to be magnetic? And I was like, no. And she was like, oh yeah, it helps you understand your subconscious programming and then you rewire it. And then it helps you bring into fruition the things you want in your life. And I was like, oh, like, and meanwhile, I had done a little bit of therapy and done stuff like that, but I had never done hypnosis before. I'd never done subconscious rewiring. I didn't know what that was. So I did it. In that program, and I'm going to say a lot of positive things. I owe a lot of like my early work with this to be magnetic. I think Lacey Phillips has created something really beautiful. And at this point, I think there's more to that process. There's some other factors. And I personally think that it's a little bit broad, and I think it leaves some windows open for it to not be very trauma informed, and it doesn't necessarily hold and catch people all the way as I think it should. However, again, it's not promising to be therapy or anything like that. So, but I will say that was my first kind of look into this neural rewiring stuff. I did that for a while, and actually what it did was it helped me understand that it was a reality check. I was the fucking problem. Okay. And not in a way that was cruel, but in a way that was honest, that I could finally be radically honest with myself and go, hey, like, I think if I keep attracting all these asshole men, it's not that all men are assholes. That doesn't make sense because there's literally half of the population. It is impossible for all of them to be assholes. That doesn't make sense because I also have friends that aren't assholes. Wait a second. Who is the one that's attracting all of these people? It's me. And so when I started getting clear on that, oh, it's me, I was like, oh shit. I feel like this is an issue. And then I started doing this inner work. I started looking inward and getting honest with myself. And I realized, oh, I am attracting this kind of person because I feel like that's what I deserve. I don't really actually love myself and see myself. I don't think that highly of myself. So I keep attracting people that don't think highly of me. And there was next this element of, okay, wow, we uncovered something that was big. Like I truly at my heart didn't think I deserved to be loved. And I was like, holy shit. And I know everybody's like, you have to love yourself first before you find your person. But like, I had to be honest about then understanding what was going on subconsciously. I then had to get clear, where was I continuing to show up in this old programming that was attracting these people? What about not only my energy, but my actions? Like, what was I doing that was attracting these people? Where was I enabling this behavior? So I had to be honest about that. Sometimes people would, cross lines, act inappropriately and act aggressively. And I was still so afraid of them that I, wasn't protecting myself or enforcing boundaries out of fear. And so one big part of this action step to get me to feel like I could protect myself, especially after the Puerto Rico thing, was that I went to Krav Maga and I learned Krav Maga. And that was one of the biggest action steps that I could have taken to have control over my own autonomy and my safety. And I learned in a very physical way, to channel my anger of all of the heartbreak and loss and fear that I had. And B, I learned to handle myself in a way where I was powerful and I knew what I could do to protect myself if anything was to ever happen again. And that, as I started to embody and rehearse this next layer, this next version of me that was no longer afraid, that stood with her head held high, which had her chest out, I started to evolve and change. Confidence, because I started to take action from this place of where I wanted to go, started to happen inside of me because I was acting in a way that was was welcoming in this new way of being, right? I was rehearsing this new way of being by repping out, going into the gym and learning to defend myself, like without any weapons, like just with my hands, right? So that was huge. And then at this time, I had finally started to have all this confidence. I manifested my first national commercial, which was wild because I was so surrendered and just so confident and so at peace with finally feeling safe with inside of myself. I also started to say, with the relationship piece, I started to say no over and over and over again to men that it actually started to get harder and harder and harder and harder because I would be like, oh, like, before I would just let anyone and his brother just talk to me or treat me a certain way because I had no self-worth, okay? But then I started to recognize where I was acting in behaviors of low self-worth. I stopped doing those behaviors, like continuing to talk or like apologize for things that I didn't fucking do and like taking bad treatment. I started saying no. I started excusing myself. I started catching signs of where people could be toxic or dangerous earlier. I started to not tolerate any physical advances, and I put a boundary between myself. And then what ended up happening, guys, and I kid you not, this is why doing this inner work and understanding what the stories are and the blocks are, and like understanding why are you behaving in a certain way. What ended up happening is universe, or whatever my mind was, there's actually a very neurological scientific exploration. It has to do with the RAS, has to do with, the rehearsal of things. This has to do with the limbic system. And basically your brain can then start to detect things as you're taking out old programming, you're putting in a new code, so to speak, of how you want to live your life. And then the emotional part's really important, but you're rehearsing the charge of what you want. Your brain, basically, without the fluffy, magic shit, your brain literally starts to look for that because you are basically hacking your own code to become what you want to be. But there are steps that you need to, address inside of you that can help you do that. You can't just dream into existence by having, thoughts at a certain point. At a certain level, right? Anything that's going on in your life that's not in alignment with where you want to go, you're going to have to look at why you're still doing that behavior. And there's a concept of I think there's a book called Existential Kink. It's a really good book. But there's basically a concept of we don't do anything that's not benefiting us somehow. Now, a lot of what we do that's not in alignment with where we want to go it's just trying to keep us alive. So, our nervous system and our brain aren't designed to keep us in our dreams. They're designed to not have us die. And so if we grew up with programming that learned that certain things weren't safe, that you had to act a certain way or behave a certain way for your life to have safety and not pass away, and that are kind of dysfunctional but aren't really in alignment with you living your dreams, you're going to operate on that unconsciously, because that is what your system and your brain believes is going to keep you alive. So that's part of it. I believed that at somewhere along the way, I wasn't worth something, and my brain was more used to the pattern of it was more similar and it was the same to keep attracting relationships in which I was treated like shit because that was familiar to me. That felt good to me. It was unknown to pick something else. Because my system was used to be treating like shit, because deep down, I really truly believed that. It was validating, right? Your brain makes you see externally what you feel about yourself internally. And so internally, if you feel like a piece of shit, anything your brain sees is then going to be looking to validate that. Do you see what I'm talking about? Why it's so important to see what the subconscious programming is? Because whatever your inner world is going to mirror in the external world. So until I identified what my inner world was what code it was working on, and I looked at it and I changed the code, and then I embodied it and rehearsed it, I was going to be stuck where I was going to go. And it didn't matter what area of my life it was in. At that point, it was every area of my fucking life I was on the ground, right? So at this point with men, what was so fascinating was that the universe kept testing me over and over and over again, because I was ultimately calling in something huge. I was calling in the love of my life. I was like, I will, at a certain point after I'd been doing this work, I had been uncovering the blocks. I'd been reprogramming my brain with hypnosis and repetition and taking action. I started to get better at attracting better people. But during that process, it also narrowed down what that actually meant. Like, what did I actually want? It was narrowing down what I later call my list. So what were all of the qualities that I actually wanted in my husband? And there was also a lot of tests on, like, it got harder and harder, guys. As I got clearer and clearer, the tests got more nuanced as far as like, and it kind of felt like, okay, you're realizing all of this programming, you're realizing you want to turn into this person. Okay, that's great. We're doing the hypnosis. And here's an invitation. Are you going to act out of low self-worth again? Or are you going to act from this better, this more healed and embodied place? You're going to act like the version of you that meets the love of their life and is holding out for the love of their life? Or are you going to act like someone that is just happy to be loved by anybody and will settle for nothing and doesn't love themselves? Like, which version are you going to act out of? And it got harder and harder and harder. Like, and it also, the men got hotter. Like, it was harder to deny them. It was crazy. I got closer and closer and closer and closer. And even to a point, like I started dating men that were like treating me really well all of a sudden. I was like, holy shit. And, it was like, oh, this person's really nice. But then I had started keeping track of like watching for signs earlier as to like red flags as possibly not aligning with what I wanted. I eventually wrote down a list of all of those non-negotiables. And truly, I had exercised all of them in a way that was like, no, like I know at my core, like I need this in partnership. And if I can't have this in my life partner, I don't want it. That's fine. I'm fine being alone. That also was part of it. I had to accept that I was fine with being alone if that meant that I became safe inside myself. I was like, it's either me with myself and I'm okay with that, or I have this partner that's what I want. And if they're not what I want, it's not worth being with them. Okay. And literally, it got so hard at a point where some people just had little red flags. And well, at the time, now it'd be like not that little, but they'd be like so hot and so into me. And then they'd be like, so like, when are we gonna, and I would be like, are you gonna take me out on a date? Like, are you gonna ask me out on a date? Are you gonna treat me XYZ way? And they'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'd be like, okay, next, bye. Like, pass. Like, I'm not, thank you, next, as Ariana would say. Like, I got better at detecting like kind of douchebaggery. And then it got so hard though, because then I started meeting people that were like actually so lovely and like so kind and a lot of what I wanted. But then I kid you the fuck not, because I started listening to my intuition, I started to trust myself. I started to get better and better and better at indicating if things felt good or if they didn't feel good, because I had this new programming in that was better at detecting that shit. And this one guy that I met right before COVID, they were great. They were so kind. They're probably one of the kindest partners I'd ever had. They were considerate, they were talented, they were intelligent, they were funny. And I was like, maybe this is it. Like, this is it. And I remember like leaving their apartment and going home and getting on the train. And I kid you not, very similar to the intuition that I had in physics, this thought fell in, and it was just like lands, and it's like, that's it, right? It lands and it goes away. It doesn't badger you like anxiety. It's just like, boom, and then it leaves. And the thought was, he's not your husband, period. And I was like, why though? Wait, I like him though. Wait, why? What do you mean? What do you mean? And then there's part of me that was like, no, that's not it. That's not no. Like, I really didn't want that to be true. But like, I knew in my gut, I was like, oh, this means something. Lo and behold, I see him the next time. He sits down. He looks at me and he's like, I don't know why, but we're not supposed to be together. I kid you the fuck not. That's what he said. I don't know why, but there's something inside me that tells me we're not meant to end up together. Are you kidding me? Okay. I was sad, but this was also one I knew. I agreed. I was like, I feel that too. And this was like one of the first relationships that I had like exited with grace. And I was like, and I remember saying to him, I'm really excited for you. I think you're close. I think you're close to meeting this person. And he was like, you too. And when I tell you, the next person he met was his wife, and the next person I met was my husband. And there's a whole, I guess I'll end on this and then tell you how I did this and how you can learn to do this for yourself. But I basically, COVID happened. I was still at a breaking point as far as my career went. I didn't quite figure that out yet, but when I broke up with this person, I was still kind of uncomfortable, obviously. But then COVID happened and Broadway shut down and everything was shut down. And I went home and it was the first time I was able to actually be still, like really still. And so my intuition and everything amplified tenfold. I started going outside and walking around the woods every single day. And again, spending time with my internal world and rehearsing this programming of because you know what? Honestly, guys, at that point, I had nothing fucking else to lose. Like, I had gotten so good and gotten so confident. And at that point, compared to where I was, and like, it was like, what other option do I have? Right? I refuse to go back to that other way. I will embody this and this will work for me. Like, there was a decision. I didn't know how or where or who or when, but it was like, this is the only way. And after rehearsing that, it was interesting. I started to become more at peace with myself. I started leaning into my creativity. I did the internal work to spend time songwriting and focusing on my creativity. I let go of control. And there was an invitation to come back to New York to work at a studio as a teacher. And at that point, I had had a bunch of fucking shitty survival jobs. So I was like, oh, this is like, there was a part of me that whispered that I wanted to become a teacher. I didn't completely lean into that yet. But that, like, at that point would have been like a dream side job to me. And there was still a little bit of anxiety on, wait, but I meant like, what if Broadway opens and I'm not there? And during COVID, I was at my fucking parents' house. Like, I wasn't, like, there was, in my mind at that time, like, if I wasn't in New York, Broadway wasn't happening. However, Broadway was shut down, so whatever, right? But at that moment, I was like, I remember it didn't feel all the way right going back to New York at that time. Like, there was something pulling me to stay, which at the time didn't really logically make sense. Because again, even though we all know COVID stayed shut down, at that point, I was convinced that I was going to open any minute and, auditions were going to go in full swing and all of these things are going to happen. And I was like, well, it doesn't make sense for me to be in Pittsburgh. Like, what is for me here? Like, if this job presents itself, I should probably go. But again, I had spent so much time being with myself in stillness. I could hear the intuition. My subconscious programming was like, maybe you should listen, right? We've caught ourselves before here. Like, we can feel safe to listen to this because you've practiced feeling safe here. Because you're in this more clean, clear state, why don't you listen and just pause for a second and reflect on this? And so I remember I sat and I did a meditation on it. I like remembered I was just like asking, whatever is out there, the universe, my guides, however you guys relate, but that's how I relate. And so I sat there, I closed my eyes and I got my system still. And I asked, I was like, am I supposed to go to New York? Like, what am I supposed to do? And in my mind's eye, I kid you not, I felt like that's so Raven. And it sounds nuts, but it's true. Like, this shit is real. I saw a vision of if I was to if I was to go back to New York, I saw this vision of a like cul-de-sac. It was interesting. It was like, well, you can go, but you'll just end up where you are again, was the answer. If I stayed in Pittsburgh, in Butler, Pennsylvania, where my parents lived, okay, if I stayed there, almost 30, unemployed, and living at my parents' house during a national pandemic, which would have been my worst fucking nightmare, I saw a vision of a tree growing its roots down into the ground. And it showed me like, this is your life. If you stay here and you listen, you finally listen. You've done all of this work and you actually take action, the fullest action by not going back to New York. And I saw these roots growing down and down and down, creating this whole system of my life, this foundation of my life. And I saw this tree coming up into the sky and blooming. And I was like, okay, again, I guess I follow this. Like, I've learned enough at this point that doing that internal work, looking inside, following my intuition, taking action, I had already proved to myself enough that that was worth it. I felt safe inside of myself and I went, okay, I'm not going to go back. Even though it makes no fucking sense why I would stay in Butler, Pennsylvania. I come out of this fucking meditation and all of a sudden, just like on the train, how I knew, just like in physics, how I knew, this voice, like this inner knowing was like, and now you're going to meet your husband. I kid you the fuck not, guys. I know that sounds crazy. It's true. My mom's a witness. I went up to my mom in the kitchen and I was like, I think I'm going to meet my husband now. And she was like, okay. It was crazy. That was crazy. When I tell you that I matched with Kyle on Tinder like a day later and I met him a few days later from that period, I am not kidding. And when I saw Kyle for the first time, it probably was love at first sight, although I think I had been kind of traumatized by having so many bad relationships that I wasn't like really allowing myself to feel that way. I was so struck by him. He was like glowing in this way. I'd never seen someone so attractive before. It's like seeing a vampire on Twilight. You know what I mean? I was like, I'd never seen someone that beautiful before. And I remember noticing like, whoa. Like, and I think it just registers like, he's way hotter than I thought he was going to be. But not that he wasn't attractive in his photos, but you know what I'm saying? Like he was effervescent. There was this glow about him. And that's it. The rest is history. And when I say my life turned technicolor, because I finally remembered who I was and what I needed to live by. And I had dug out some of the old programming and finally manifested something that I had been working to uncover in myself for years, actually, I'd never been successful with a relationship up to that point, clearly. And had been through so many heartbreaks and bad treatment. And when I tell you it would not have been possible without doing that inner work and getting honest with myself and seeing what was running down there and then removing it and embodying who I knew I was meant to be and starting to take action from that place and having the support of actual tools, not just talking about it, but like doing the inner work, a self-led work and holding myself accountable in that, it would not have happened. It changed my life. I am the living proof of how looking inwards can really heal you. And this is where I'm going to finally announce, since you guys are podcast listeners, I think it's of the utmost important to, again, give back to people that are loyal. And again, the podcast is a growing little baby, you know? And if you're listening to this, and you're here, like, I value you taking the time to really be part of this, like, baby growing journey. And so this is the first place where I'm announcing publicly a brand new membership that is going to focus on artists healing their creativity. And it's called the Singer's Path Inner Circle. And this is something that has been years in the making. And it's the embodiment of artists basically learning to harness their gifts in a way that they are actually bringing into fruition the things that they really want. And they're able to hold themselves through the chaos that exists in being the entertainment industry and being in any art. It's not just for musical theater people. It's for any kind of artist. It's for performing artists. It's for any kind of creative, painters, dancers, designers, sound engineer, like whatever. Anything you do that relates to art in any form, drawing, writing, like anything like that, you can do it. It's kind of like the artist's way on crack, but with neural programming. So it's taking, and here's the thing, I know I'm not like a mental health professional. I don't claim to be, but I have done this work and looking inward, self-care led work, unfucking my own mind, learning to be radically honest and taking action in a place that is actually aligned, but you have to be still enough and have the tools to actually know what that is though. And so that's why we created the Singer's Path Inner Circle. And again, because I'm not, I'm not trained in that. I've done it, but this has been a collaborative effort. And again, I have to be very crystal clear here. Understand that this membership is not therapeutic care. It is not therapy. That is not something that it is. This is a way to lead you to understanding your own inner world so that you can help yourself. That's what this is. And they're self-care practices. But the self-care practices are based in neuroscience. And it actually works because I've done them. It literally works. So there's understanding your subconscious wiring, your subconscious blocks. There's hypnosis tracks that help you move out of them and put in a new narrative. It's trauma informed. This was co-created and monitored because I care about making it of quality. It was co-created with mental health professionals, right? So my sister, who's a therapist, co-created and monitored it. Again, by her participating in that, that still does not make it therapy. She's a therapist. She's not your therapist. However, I wanted to make sure that it would work even, if it's a self-care led thing, I wanted to make sure it was trauma informed, that it's ethical, that the hypnosis track, she's trained in hypnosis, that those are going to work to their deepest and most potent capability. And that's what this is. It's huge. So what is this membership? Again, so this membership is an exclusive membership that includes a few parts, okay? The actual neural reprogramming, the hypnosis tracks, those are all in something called the Spotlight system, which is exclusive to the Inner Circle members. You have to be in the Inner Circle membership to have access to it. So that's all the rewiring that I'm talking about, getting clear on your subconscious blocks and your stories, rewiring them with neuroplasticity, taking action. There's a full system to how you do this for your brain, how you get your brain based in neuroscience, like literal science, how to get it to work in the way that you want to live your life. Okay, so that's what the Spotlight system is. Again, it's not just created by me. It was co-created and monitored. And I basically had people that I trusted who do these things for a profession, in somatic practices, parts work, people that are really good at doing this kind of internal work. I had them check and make sure everything's trauma informed, that all of the hypnosis tracks are in integrity, that they work. So again, I have to say this a bajillion times because legally, you need to be clear that it's not therapy. However, you will learn on your own with self-led tools how to develop a better relationship with your internal world, and then learn what action steps you need to take then to step into it and embody that. But the Singer's Path is the Spotlight system is only one element of this membership. Okay, so that is included in all of it. The other thing that's included is you get 2 live calls a month, and you get to connect with artists all over the world who are also in the process of healing their own creativity and rewiring their brains to help them. And the 2 live calls a month, there's going to be a combination. This is like an artistic career coaching thing that will lead you into helping yourself actually achieve your dreams. Now, again, this is part 1 of the series. I know what I spoke about today was basically mostly in relationship. You can apply anything you're learning in the Spotlight system and in the Inner Circle to other aspects of your life. I will give in future episodes other examples of how this inner work changed my life, and how you can change your life with what we've created for you as well. But just know here, I guess I should break down. You're going to hear me talk about this so much, but the things that the Spotlight system and the Inner Circle membership actually focus on are the things that I just see are so desperately missing as far as support goes for you guys. And I know because it was me. Okay. So support on areas of your life that artists, I feel like, just are like fucking flailing on, like actual stage fright and learning to stay safe inside of yourself, letting go of attachment to things. I'm waiting to hear for an audition. I'm waiting. I don't know what to do. I'm attached to this outcome. Right? Talk about me in my 20s, right? That program was created for me. There's Artist Money Story. Guys, we have to figure out how to unfuck your mind with the money thing. That's a big thing with lack. Getting you to program your mind in a way that's abundant, that you trust yourself, that you can get work and pay for your art to happen. There's fame and visibility, which is around you being able to hold being seen. There's shadow and inner child. So shadow is basically how we've rejected aspects of ourselves. It's centered around shame. And if you're like, why do we have to do shame? That's part of the inner work. Okay, y'all. There's inner child, so self-compassion towards yourself. There's a whole program on how you can learn how to connect with that. There's a completely reactivating creativity section. So if you've been in an artist slog, like you have block, you can't get written what you need to get written, auditioning has sucked the fun out of everything. You did a really intense show with really dark subject matter for a long time, and now it feels like you've lost your joy in your art. That reactivating creative play is huge for that. There's a giant section on something called artist self-worth, which is huge. It'll address body image and how you feel about your body and, in relationship to being a performing artist. There's one about unblocking the voice. Guys, this membership, if even just that, humongous. It's worth it just for that. To learn to integrate and heal the energy that's clogging your voice and or your relationship with hating your voice, or you feel like no matter what you do, you can't get past a certain point with your singing. It's probably due to the subconscious stories running around in your head about your voice. So that will help unblock that. There's one that's about self-worth around your skill. So that it's not just about singing or dancing or your body. It could be your acting, or you've always been told you're not as strong of an actor, or you've always been told your photography isn't as good as you want it to be, right? So there's something centered around insecurity and self-worth around the actual skill itself. And then there's one that's soul mission, which is literally just about your connection and relation to why you were drawn to do this in the first place. It kind of gets you clear on your purpose. So I don't even know if honestly, when I'm talking about this, I don't even know that those are all the programs. There's 10 programs total that teach you how to do all of this work. It's so special. And I'm telling you it works because I've done it. I've done this for myself. And y'all know I don't make anything that I am not obsessed with or that I have needed or need. I made this for me too, because this kind of work is never finished. This kind of work, especially around creativity, is so important for artists to finally, everyone's just telling you just believe in yourself, just believe in yourself. But how do you integrate at a neurological level the way that you want to embody and live your dreams? How, when your dreams come to fruition, do you actually enjoy them without crumpling under stress? This is where this comes in. And this is what I just so desperately wanted for so long. And this method was how I manifested what I explained to you today, relationship and understanding how to harness your brain in a positive way and relax your nervous system and, take action from a place of empowerment so you actually get the thing you want. This is just one of several examples I'm going to be giving here in future episodes of why this works and how I've done it. So the membership, again, it includes 2 live classes a month, and not just with me, but with other people who either design the program. So people who are therapists in life, or who are somatic healers, or who are, magic practitioners, or who are, parts work specialists, or even career people, career coaches for actors, career coaches, website design, headshots, anything, content creation. There's going to be subjects in there that go in line with what's in the spotlight system, like this, the themes that we address there. but it's just a way to get even more help and sit in on classes with masters of what they do. And just, it's going to be so supportive. I'm so excited. Again, if there is a practitioner that does give a class, that does not mean that they are giving you therapy, right? They're a therapist talking about how you can help yourself. Okay. So that's just, I'm going to be making that abundantly clear, and that's going to be probably annoying, but I don't care, because that's what we got to do to make sure everybody's on board and everyone who's involved is protected. But I'm just so thrilled, guys. So you're going to get 2 of those classes. You get access to the Spotlight system. You get connected with a community of artists all over the world, and you get to hold each other accountable through doing this work of healing and returning to your creativity and actually manifesting what the fuck you want in your life, right? Actually having the dreams come true, finally, because you are starting to embody who you want to be. And there'll be spaces to share your creations with other people. There'll be spaces to receive feedback on what you want. It is a 0 tolerance policy, good vibes only. We do not accept bad behavior or bullying or any kind of thing like that. You'd be immediately removed. So when I make a group container, it is immaculate vibes. Okay. But yeah, you guys got to check out the show notes. Just so you know, no one else knows about this yet. You are getting dibs. You are the first to know. I have not announced this on emails. I have not announced this on socials. No one knows about this. A couple of my students know. That's it. And like my husband and my family. Okay. No one knows about this. And the reason I'm telling you is because I really appreciate you listening to the podcast early. The link is in the show notes if you want to look at it right now. Although this is really going to go public on Thanksgiving. And so you get access to this for about $2 a day. $2 a day. Guys, that's less than an MTA one-way ride. Okay? And when you look at the pricing and you consider this, I need you to consider how long you've been mind-fucking yourself in a way that hasn't been serving you, how long you have made decisions and choices based out of fear, how much longer you are willing to stay where you are, not living your dreams, not having things come true, feeling miserable, feeling like there's something wrong with you, feeling stuck, feeling like you're grasping at straws to get anything to happen. I need you to get clear with how much fucking longer you're willing to be in that state. How much longer you're going to allow the joy of your dream to seep out of you? Or are you going to take accountability, take this as a sign that this is something meant for you to help you, and take advantage of it now while it's this low of a price? Like literally the annual option comes down to, I'm not kidding you, less than $2 a day. There is no excuse. I've made this in a way that I could have, anyone can make that work. Okay. So it's less than an avocado. Okay. Like, I don't know what to tell you. And there's also, and listen, I get it. That's the annual option. I get it. If you're still like, well, I don't know. I've never tried something like this. I don't know about that. Then there's also a month-to-month option. So you can do the month-to-month option. You just got to make sure you cancel read the directions of how to cancel. But if you just want to try it and you're not sure, then that's fine. That's why that's there. There's a month-to-month option. It's $77 a month for month-to-month. When I say this is all-encompassing, I mean it. When I say this changes lives, I fucking mean it, because it changed my life. So, and this is applied to art. This is important. This is your life. So I'm really excited for you to check it out. Please go to the link in the show notes. I will be talking about this a lot because this is the missing piece. This is when you're sitting at night and you're sitting with yourself in tears because you are just at a loss for words as to the immense emotions that you're feeling around your career, and you're so uncomfortable, and you don't know if you're going to make it. And you, like, as far as like making it with your career, you don't know if you don't know when your dream's going to happen to you. You've done everything that you can possibly do. Let's look under the hood. Let's see what's going on and how your behaviors are not helping you. Why don't you learn how to hold yourself through these things so that you can actually build yourself up? Like, literally get the tools to finally build yourself up, make your self-worth ironclad as an artist and finally walk with utmost confidence into the things that you've been dreaming for years. All right. This is for you. I care about you. I love you. Thank you so much for listening to this. I know this was very long of me talking about things. I'm going to talk in the next episode more about how, like, more proof of how this neuro rewiring works. And I'm just so excited for you to take a listen. Please check out the Singer's Path Inner Circle. And in the meantime, if you want something to get your feet wet, you can get the free Abundant Artist audio series. That's a lovely free way to get started on, those are some lovely tracks that will help you with hypnosis. However, the ones in the Spotlight system inside of the membership, the Inner Circle, they are excellent. They are incredible. I use them all the time now. And I want you to know, this pricing for this membership, this is just a holiday thing. This is a founding members only. So if you join at this rate, it will stay that rate forever. It will not go up again. Even if the prices go up publicly, like if you're a founding member, your price is locked in for life. Okay. And I will tell you, on January 7th, I believe, it's going to jump up to $97 a month. Okay. So do yourself a favor, right? Take a look at the annual option. You get 3 months for free on the annual option. It's pretty much less than $2 a fucking day. So I don't know what to tell you there. Take a look at that one. Or if you're feeling like you got commitment issues a little bit, then do the month to month. That's fine. But if you delay and you don't jump on this right the fuck now, it's going to be gone and you're going to fucking be kicking yourself. Okay. Anyway, I love you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm so excited for you. This is such an act of love, and all the people that have been involved in creating it, I trust so deeply, and it's been so life-changing for me. I can't wait to see what happens for you. And with that, I hope you have a wonderful holiday week here in the U.S. And you're the first to know about this special thing. Check it out. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. This helps me get this information out to more artists all over the world. Let's work together to spread the joys of music. Until next time, I'm your host, Sarah Bishop, signing off from the Singer's Path podcast. Thanks for listening.